Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
Don't you understand, George? It's because you were not born.
Film church.
Well, a boy's best friend is his mother.
You don't understand, Jill. People like that have something inside. Something to do with death. If that fellow lives, he'll come in through that door, pick up his gear, and say adios.
Hello, and welcome to Film Church Radio. We are the podcast that treats cinema as a religion. It's Sunday, I'm Lewis.
And I'm Brandon.
And we are here to talk about movies. This is the fifth in a very special series of episodes where we are going through the filmography of Sergio Leone week by week. Normally, each week, Brandon and I alternate picking a film for us both to watch and discuss. But as I've already said, for the next few episodes, it's all about Leone. Today, we are talking about Once Upon a Time in the West from 1968, starring finally Henry Fonda, Charles Bronson, Claudia Cardinale, and Jason Robards. But before we get into the film, obviously we want to say thank you to everyone who's been listening to the podcast and sending their love for the show. If you're new to the show and you're enjoying it, and what isn't to love, you know, the introduction is always the best part of any show. Give us a like, you know, follow us on social media, hit that subscribe button, make sure you get notified when new episodes drop. Hint, it's on a Sunday. And just, you know, watch along with us. That's the whole point. If you really, really enjoy the show, please share it with your friends. Word of mouth is super important. And as I said, you can find us on social media platforms everywhere at Film Church Radio. And you can leave us a comment, send us a message about the show. And we'd obviously also love for you to rate and review the show on whatever podcast service you're streaming from. Now that we've got that part out of the way, what we do before we talk about the main film is Brandon and I talk about the other films we've been watching this week. Brandon, by the looks of it, has watched a lot more than I have this week. So I'm going to hand it over to you, buddy, and let you start. First of all, how are you?
I'm doing good, other than the fact that I found out I have the shingles.
Yeah.
Found out today, but it's apparently not too bad. I mean, I caught it early, so... You know,
that's good.
I got the medicine and just gonna wait it out the next week.
That's
but
crazy.
I'm doing good. It's really not as bad as it sounds so far.
Yeah. Phew.
But I don't know. It's weird times.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, not too bad.
Good. Good.
But yeah,
what have you been watching this week?
I've been watching lots of stuff. So have you been watching Barry?
No.
Have you watched any of it?
No.
Okay.
It is a show that I'm like, I should watch Barry.
Yeah.
But I never get around to it.
It is really, really good.
Yeah.
On HBO Max. Sorry, I am blanking on. I'm like pulling IMDb up right now. I'm blanking on the main actor's name.
Bill Hader. Yeah,
Bill Hader. Dude, everybody knows him from comedy stuff, but you know, it's a really, really good role for him. Like he gets to do a lot with it, and this new season 3, is very intense. And he's like dialed it up even more. So he's really great to watch, and it's a drama that is, the episodes are only 30 minutes long.
Yeah.
But they feel like an hour-long drama. Like, you cannot believe that, like, how many episodes you've watched in a couple hours. You're like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But in the new season, there's this girl, Elsie Fisher, is in the new season. So we watched that episode last week, and she's in a film called 8th Grade that was written and directed by Bo Burnham. Back in 2018, and I've been wanting to rewatch it.
Yeah.
And my girlfriend liked the movie. Like, we went and saw it at Alamo and stuff. But my sister and her husband hadn't seen it, and I was like, we should watch this. And my sister is very busy with like work and school. She's like teaching full time and in a master's program. So she's like
Wow.
got a very busy schedule.
Yeah.
So she was like, I'm not gonna be able to watch this with y'all, but y'all can start it. But then we started it and she got sucked in right away.
Yeah.
So she ended up watching all of it.
That's awesome.
Hopefully she still passes her classes, but yeah, I mean, it's such a good movie, dude. Like, just rewatching it. I mean, there's parts of the movie that are very tense, and watching it a second time, knowing like how that resolves and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot easier to just like sit back and enjoy the whole thing.
Yeah.
And Elsie Fisher's like does such an amazing job. She's so genuine, like she just feels so real in that character. But it's a really great movie. I mean, you've seen it.
Yeah.
Hopefully people seek it out. I think it's on like Stars.
Cool.
Or Showtime or something like that.
It's been a while since I've seen it.
Yeah, man. It's just, I love all of Bo Burnham's stuff. And so it was really cool to see him do a film because it's like my love. And I know that his like learning about it afterwards, and like he made this film as kind of like a metaphor for his own anxiety about like getting on stage to do stand up and stuff. So it's cool watching it through that lens this time around. And it's a really good film. People should go see it.
Yeah, it came out alongside like a glut of really good films. I think like was it the same year as like Lady Bird and stuff?
I think so, yeah.
And it was just like it felt like a resurgence for the indie filmmaker a little bit at that point. Yeah. Especially with a lot of those films getting like Oscar buzz and stuff like that. Yeah, that was a really good period of American cinema.
Yeah, it was, and I don't think it really got nominated for much. But I know Elsie Fisher. She was like, she did some kind of announcement at the Academy Awards, like she got on stage and like presented something or something. But yeah, it's cool to see her doing stuff now. Like, I mean, I'm sure she's been doing stuff. I mean, she's like does the voice in Despicable Me movies. It's not like she hasn't been doing anything. But seeing her, I was just like, oh, there she is. Cool.
Yeah, she's also in the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre on Netflix that I haven't watched. Okay, interesting. But that was kind of the one thing that I was like, oh, because I hadn't like the same as you. I hadn't really seen her in anything since 8th grade. Yeah. I was like, oh, maybe I should watch it, and then I decided not to. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's one of those movies. Like it's really good, but it's also really great to share with people.
Yeah, like and you are talking about 8th grade, not the Texas Chainsaw Massacre reboot.
Oh, yes, that is, yeah. I am talking about. I thought that's what you were talking about when you said you almost watched it.
Yeah, it was, I almost watched the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
I haven't seen any of those, so.
You haven't seen the original?
No.
Oh, man. No. the most annoying film character ever created in Franklin. And really? I mean, I know that you don't know who that is, but anyone that's listening that's ever seen it, God, I hate Franklin. So
really,
yeah, with every fiber of my being, yeah.
Interesting. Have you seen all of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre films?
I've seen the first, and then I've seen part 2, which is very strange. It's more like comedy. Dennis Hopper's in it as like a cop, I think.
Oh,
it's so bizarre. Yeah, but the first one is like I watched it way too young. It's genuinely terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good.
Sweet. I will have to. I mean, it's probably been on my list for years, but it's not. I've never pulled the trigger.
Yeah.
But yeah. So after that, basically caught up on a bunch of Marvel movies. I mean, not caught up. I like rewatched a bunch of Marvel movies. Because No Way Home just came out, and I finally got my 4K copy of Spider-Man No Way Home.
Nice.
And so I watched that, and then, Doctor Strange, a big part of that movie. And I was like, I should go back and watch Doctor Strange. I think you mentioned it last week, too, that you rewatched it. So I was like, I'll rewatch it. And then after watching Doctor Strange, I was like, wanting to watch Avengers again. So I watched Infinity War and Endgame.
Nice.
And you know, it's interesting going back and watching those again because I mean, Endgame was such a huge deal, but I really like Infinity War a lot.
Yeah, me too.
Like, I think Infinity War and Civil War might be my favorite MCU movies, at least group movies. Like, those are the films where they really start bringing people together and having fun. And Infinity War, I mean, like, Endgame is awesome, of course, but it's mainly about like the core Avengers, like the five.
Yeah.
Whereas like Infinity War is like when they bring the Guardians of the Galaxy in and like, you know, they meet Thor and all that stuff. It's like all those and like Black Panther and like, you know, those characters are still in Endgame, but not till the end, and it's not really about them. So yeah, it was. I might have to do my MCU ranking at some point. Like
I was going to say, if anyone wants to see mine, follow me on Letterboxd. It's there.
Yeah.
So,
But yeah, and then I also saw The Northman.
Nice. I'm jealous. I saw it like pop up on your Letterboxd, and I was like, dang it.
Yeah, I went and saw it. I guess on Tuesday, and yeah, it was good. I won't spoil too much. I think Alamo Drafthouse kind of put it perfectly that it was Norse-sploitation.
Nice. Okay, cool.
So, I couldn't agree more. It's a fun movie.
I read somewhere that it was that it's very kind of Hamlet-esque, and I'm like, this is the year of Hamlet. I've watched I've watched like 2 versions of it so far, and I'm ready for my third. Like, it's just going to be Hamlet a month. I'm hamming it up.
Nothing but ham. The year of the ham.
That's it.
But yeah, that's I mean, that's I guess I did go see Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah.
I did that too. Last night, and it's funny we didn't buy advance tickets like for the last couple months. I've been like, I need to get them, and then I've been trying to coordinate with people and trying to get them, and then you know, like the big news yesterday was the day it came out. The big news was like that it was literally just overwhelming the world, like that. Like there's you're not going to miss the movie. Like if you want to go see it, you don't need an advance ticket. You can get a ticket. And we even bought tickets for the wrong day and showed up for the movie, and they're like, you can't get in. You bought them for the wrong day, so we had to get a refund and pick different tickets, and we still got in. It wasn't like it wasn't like there was no seats. Granted, we were on the second row, but but I mean, it was like a smaller theater and reclining chairs, so it was like fine.
Nice.
And it was good. You saw it, right?
Yeah, I think that, you know, obviously we're not going to go into spoilers. It's been out 3 days, so for us to blindly go into spoilers, I would like to definitely do maybe some kind of YouTube, just 20-minute quick chat about it, because there are some things I want to talk about. I mean, I enjoyed it too. I like that Raimi got to kind of flex his muscles a bit.
Yeah.
Is it my favorite MCU film? Not by a long way.
Yeah. There's stuff about the movie that I really, really like, and then there's other stuff that I just it was not. Yeah. It didn't quite hit my expectation.
Yeah, and the one thing I will say is just that Marvel it really frustrating me how the titular character in these films is not the main character anymore.
Yeah, that's what I was feeling. I was like,
they're just using his name to sell those tickets and actually tell a different story.
Yeah. I just wanted. I think I wanted more of a like. There was some good personal stuff. Yeah. We'll get into that maybe on our spoiler special, but yeah, it was not really about him. I mean, the What If episode is more about him than this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I am looking forward to Thor. I always feel like the Thor films are a little bit more standalone.
Yeah.
You know, you can kind of.
Well, I mean, Taika Waititi coming back, like he kind of seems like he really knew what he was doing with the characters.
And those new images of Natalie Portman. Oh my gosh, I'm so ready.
Yeah,
it's like, you know, she was our Padme. No, she's going to be at Thor. I'm just
It's
so
kind
ready
of crazy.
for it.
Yeah. It's wild. Man.
Yeah.
Nostalgia.
I know. It's crazy. But Natalie Portman's like the person. So
she's a badass.
Yeah, she's awesome.
But yeah, that's it for me. What you been watching?
So obviously Doctor Strange. After you talking about Daredevil last week, I went and watched X-Men last night. It has been
the original, like 2000. Yeah.
I haven't watched it for years. And, after watching Doctor Strange, I was in the mood for a superhero film, not necessarily Marvel, or the Marvel universe, I should say. And me and Chelsea kind of sat down and watched it, and it's fun. It's a good time. Hugh Jackman has got some of the best facial expressions ever in that film. I don't think he's quite got the character yet.
Yeah.
So there's times where it's like, oh my gosh. And I tweeted out that my favorite part is when Cyclops goes to the train station and he's like trying to be incognito and he's got a cap on and he's got like his massive visor. And I'm like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, we enjoyed it a lot and we'll probably kind of keep going through and watching them.
Yeah, but it's like that's one of those movies that, I mean, that's so long ago now. I mean, 22 years, and it's like that could easily not hold up anymore. But it's still cheesy because of the time or whatever in a lot of ways. But it still holds up like a lot better than Daredevil.
Yeah, I mean the story is pretty basic.
Yeah.
It's not anything that we're getting into with the MCU at the moment, but it's very, I don't know, it's just done well. I feel like there's enough fan service to be entertaining, but it still introduced the characters well.
Yeah.
They didn't try and do too much. And then I watched RoboCop. Oh,
nice.
Geez. Yeah, RoboCop is incredible. I love RoboCop. It's just the most, like, insane, like, hour and 50 minutes ever.
Yeah. I've never seen it.
Yeah, it's so much fun. So, basically, there's, like, they're trying to sort out crime in Detroit. It's in the future. Crime rates have risen. Quite a lot of it's shot in Dallas as well, and you can see, like, Dallas trademarks, which is really cool.
Wait, so was this the first time you'd seen it?
No, I've seen it a few times.
Okay, cool.
And like a police officer kind of gets wounded in the line of duty, and then he becomes RoboCop. And it's the kind of he's kind of half man, half machine.
Yeah,
and he's like, it's just, I can't really explain it. It's just so much fun, and it's Paul Verhoeven who did Benedetta that I watched, and I think we talked about it a few weeks ago. And I'd forgotten how much I enjoyed this film, and it's just so much fun.
Yeah.
It's just like Chelsea kind of was in the room for a bit of it, and she was like laughing along with it.
Yeah.
Because the violence, even though it is very bloody, it's like to the extreme level where it's kind of like ridiculously over the top.
Yeah.
RoboCop is such a fun film.
I'm going to have to watch it. I mean, I've always heard good things about RoboCop, but
yeah,
I've just never, it just like passed me by all the time. I don't know why.
It's
maybe because it was the violence. Maybe my parents wouldn't let me watch it, and then I just never sought it out.
Maybe. I mean, I can remember like being aware of RoboCop, but knowing that it was like an 18, knowing that it was, really violent and stuff.
Yeah. I didn't know that. I didn't know it was really violent.
Yeah, I eventually saw it in uni. And we did like a presentation on it because it was like one of the first blockbusters. It created that term blockbuster, I think. Especially summer blockbuster, yeah. So,
yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
It's crazy that a violent movie. I mean, I guess like Jaws and Psycho and all that stuff kind of did it too.
I might be thinking of something else, but I'm sure that like when it came out, because it was so violent and stuff, but they marketed it at kids. So there was like a lot of toys and like a lot of T-shirts and stuff like that with RoboCop on it. And it just kind of, I don't know, it worked somehow.
Yeah, so, that's interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, I enjoyed that. And then I'm halfway through Bergman Island, which is a new film with Tim Roth. About two creatives. One is a film director, and I think the other is a script writer. I'm not sure if she directs films or not yet. I haven't finished it.
Yeah.
But basically, there's this place in Sweden where Ingmar Bergman lived, and they've kind of preserved it. And if you are like a writer or a student or something like that, you can go and stay in his house and like write stuff and like kind of be influenced by him, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's about these two people that are kind of doing that, and they're watching like Bergman films every day, and they're like going to see the places where he shot his films. But there's also like, it's like a nod to it. There's obviously problems in their marriage, like scenes from a marriage. You know, there's a lot of kind of nods to his work. And as a film lover, it's just up my alley. I'm loving it.
Really?
So far. I've got about an hour left because I'm having to watch it while, you know, the kid naps and I'm not doing a million other things. But I think you'd like it.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Is it? Where did you find it? Is it on?
It's on Hulu.
Something?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah. So it's one that I know got a lot of like buzz around the Oscar time.
Yeah.
And it was one that I wanted to watch in my not nominated for an Oscar kind of film list.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very, you know, quiet, unassuming, but it's, I don't know, as a film geek, it's great.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out. Tim Roth is great.
Yeah, he is, and it's really great to see him in a role like this, not a Tarantino kind of,
right?
You know, just a normal person.
He did a Coppola film, and I want to say it was like 2007, called Youth Without Youth, and it was like Coppola's return, like he hadn't made a film in years.
Yeah.
And he was really good in that.
That's awesome.
But yeah.
Yeah. I think you'd like it.
I will check it out.
Sweet.
Add it to the list.
Awesome. Well, that's all that I've watched, apart from the film that we're going to be talking about today. Yes. Sergio Leone, his fifth film, coming out in 1968 on the back of the success of the Dollar Trilogy. Clint is gone. He's not coming back. He's walked into the sunset with his mule and his poncho. Mm-hmm. But that makes way for a new cast of characters.
That's right.
So the film we are talking about today is Once Upon a Time in the West. Like I said, from 1968, and the IMDb summary is: a mysterious stranger with a harmonica joins forces with a notorious desperado to protect a beautiful widow from a ruthless assassin working for the railroad.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
man.
a lot of characters in this.
Yes. Like, this is the second or third time that I've seen this movie.
Okay, cool.
And it's really interesting watching all the movies together like this. Like,
yes.
It just is so informative of my thoughts on the movie. Because this movie is a very much a departure from some of the other stuff. A lot, you know, all the Dollars trilogy, you know.
Yeah.
For a Western. Because it doesn't have all the like quick zoom in and zoom out. It's like the pace is so much slower and stuff.
Yeah.
The thing that struck me so much the first time I saw it, and still this time, is the music. I think the music and the imagery, it's is the greatest I've ever seen.
Yeah.
In any film. I don't know if any, as far as like cinematography and music, even separately or together, I think it's got to be, I don't know if anything else tops this movie in those categories, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure. I think this movie is still, even it's been probably almost 10 years since the first time I saw it. I think this movie is still something is hard for me to describe. It's something that's still like just hanging out in my brain. And I'm I think about this movie a lot. Like
Yeah.
I like since the first time I saw it. The music, I like the music is permanently stuck in my head. Like the music is so as soon as you hear the first songs, like there's really only like 4 songs or
Yeah.
3 or 4, but they Ennio Morricone uses them over and over and in different ways. But as soon as you hear it the first time, it's like immediately a classic.
Do
Like
you know
it's
what it
something.
reminded me of? The music.
What?
Sherlock Holmes, the Guy Ritchie film.
Really?
Yeah, it's
Interesting.
Because I had to have a look. I was like, this has got to be like Morricone, right? This has got to be him, kind of like doing the next soundtrack. 'Cause it sounded so similar, and it was Hans Zimmer
Oh,
who did the
interesting.
Sherlock Holmes stuff. But like, I don't know
He
what
must
it
have been
didn't like
influence.
the kind of the. It's not really plonky, but like the,
I haven't seen it, so
I can't really describe it, but it's literally note for note. Like it's insane how similar the soundtrack is. You know, there's parts where it's like that is just lifted.
Weird.
Yeah. So that's what
I wonder if he just ripped it off or was just heavily influenced by it. Yeah.
Yeah. Quote, unquote.
I mean, there's certain Tarantino movies where Tarantino has just taken the soundtrack from the other movies and put him in there. But it's interesting that a composer would do that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It was
yeah. This movie is very. I still don't know what I think about it in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm like, is it a masterpiece or isn't it? Like, because there's parts of the movie that I don't like. That really, I guess, it's not that I hate the parts. It's just that they make me really uncomfortable. And like again, these characters are not like with the good, the bad, and the ugly. They're labeled the good and the bad, the ugly, but they're really just the ugly, and the ugly. You know, it's like with this movie, it's like these characters are not like none of them are really the kind of like heroes that you want. You know, nobody's really redeemable.
Yeah,
I mean,
the bad is only kind of justified because he kills children. Again, you know, it's the same as the good and bad and the ugly. The only way that we know that he's the bad guy is because he kills a kid. Like everybody else is like with him up until that point.
Yeah,
and that's the only way that they can be like, no, this is the bad guy.
Yeah, the Charles Bronson character, who is clearly supposed to be like the protagonist or whatever.
Yeah,
is not. He's never exactly. I'm never really rooting for him.
No.
You know, I mean, maybe I would be if I like rewatched it again right after. But like the scene where he's like hiding in the barn when Jill's in there, and then it like almost looks like he's gonna rape her.
Yeah,
is like so terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, the scene isn't terrible, as in like it was not well made or anything, but
yeah.
the vibe is terrible. Like it's just like it doesn't make you want to root for this guy, and like I don't know why he does that.
Yeah, so I looked it up. It's because she was wearing white with black, so she wasn't in true mourning. So he was ripping the white out of the dress so that she would look like she was in true mourning, which I think could have been handled. Though? Well, this is what. Well, I want to get on to Jill McBain a little bit because her character for me is a little bit.
I kind of jumped right in a little bit.
She's not black and white in terms of.
Yeah, I mean, none of the characters are though, and I think that's part of the point.
Yeah, but yeah, I think the fact that all of the white clothing is around her breasts and upper body is very poignant and kind of. It makes you think like, oh God, here we go again, But let's start at the beginning because, like, as far as Leone was concerned, after The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, he was done with westerns.
Yeah,
he didn't want to do another one. He was out.
Yeah,
and I mean, you can like viewers and listeners can kind of try and correct me here, but I believe that the only reason he did this film was because of Henry Fonda.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, basically, I mean, I haven't read the full chapter in the biography on Once Upon a Time in the West, but I mean that's basically what it says in the beginning of the chapter is that he didn't want to do it, and United Artists was the production company that did the Dollars trilogy with him.
Yeah.
And they were offering him stuff, but it was like not enough money and not stuff. They were only offering him Westerns, and then Paramount offered him a lot more money and the chance to work with Fonda. And he was like, all right.
Because I read that United Artists offered him Charlton Heston at one point.
Yeah. Which could have been interesting, but...
Yeah, I mean, we talked about him a little bit with Colossus of Rhodes.
Yeah.
And I think that sensibility would have worked really well with Charlton Heston. I think that, you know, especially if it had not been a Western. But at this point, he's pigeonholed. Like, there is no way that an American studio is going to bet their money on something that is not a Western for Leone at this point.
Yeah.
You know, the Dollars trilogy have been huge. Like, you know, sent Clint to stardom. Like, Leone's made his name as a filmmaker. They're going to make him do a Western.
Yeah.
And the thing about Once Upon a Time in the West that once I started to notice it, I could not get away from, is that he is literally just regurgitating his Dollars trilogy in one. There are not necessarily the story. I mean, there's parts of the story that is very similar, but there's so many character beats, there's so many scenes, there's so many like little things that when you're watching it, you're like, that's from Few Dollars More. That's from The Good and the Bad and the Ugly. That's from Colossus of Rhodes. You know, it's, to me, this film is him getting a budget, getting to work with Fonda, giving the studio what they want by literally just doing what he's already done.
Yeah.
I don't think there's much like genuine I don't know, like individuality out of the other three Westerns that he's done with this film.
Yeah.
Which
like
isn't necessarily a bad thing. You know, I'm not saying that it's terrible.
Like you don't feel this one is genuine and you feel like the other ones are?
I feel like the other ones were a little bit more, I don't know, coming from a creative place.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I feel like this is like, okay, the studio paying me to do a Western. I'm going to do a Western. And I'm going to do the most Western they've ever Westerned.
Yeah.
You know, it's just,
I mean, yeah, it kind of is that though, right? Like it's kind of like, I keep thinking about it. Like, what is it that, you know, because there's parts of the movie, like I said, that I don't like, but there are parts of the movie that just stick with me and I love. So I'm just trying to break that down and figure out what that is. And I think it is because it is the most Western. Like it is like that's the whole point of the movie. But in terms of like the viewer, it reminds me of so many just random Westerns that I've seen just from, you know, hanging out with my grandparents and my grandfather, who was very into Westerns and watched tons of Westerns and a lot of Western TV shows and stuff. Like anytime I was over there at their place, he would be watching a Western, like, and I wouldn't know what it was. Like we would start it, you know, sometimes just come in the middle of it, not know if it was a TV show or a movie or what. And this movie feels like all of those in one, you know, and because like a lot, because sometimes you just wouldn't know who the characters were, you wouldn't understand the story or like whatever, and like all of that is in there too. Like even like the boring parts of Westerns, like that's in this too, you know, and like a story that is like kind of a little bit hard to follow and stuff. I mean, like the basic plot is easy to follow, but there was so many times in this movie where I'm like, they were just here and now they're here. Like, how did they get there?
Yeah, time didn't seem to matter in this.
Yeah.
You know, especially at the end, they're kind of like, okay, we're going to start building this station. And they have the little like battle in the town. And then they come back and it's like everything's been half built. I'm like, how long were we away for? This is
Yeah.
You know, the train line has already reached us now. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, it's like there's something about this movie that just seeps into my subconsciousness.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I really feel like the first 40 minutes of this movie is like some of the best film anything I've ever seen.
That
Like the whole opening
sequence.
of with the three guys, and there's
Yeah.
no music or anything except for, you know, when he comes in with the harmonica, but that doesn't last very long. But the whole opening scene with the three guys, and they come into the place, and apparently Sergio Leone wanted the good, the bad, and the ugly to be those characters. He wanted Lee Van Cleef,
Oh, really?
Clint Eastwood, and Eli Wallach to be those three characters, and then them get killed off at the beginning of the movie, so that he could literally kill off and let people know, like, this is not going to be the movie you think it is. But Clint Eastwood said no, and he's like, well, I'm not going to do it without you, because it just wouldn't make sense.
Everyone would know. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, the cinematography, man, like the cinematography and pacing of that opening sequence, it reminds me a lot of Kurosawa in a lot of ways, because he was so good at doing, you know, these like short films within his film.
Yeah, simple,
you know?
well kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. You know, the whole scene with the guy and the fly on his face.
Yeah.
Was great. And then Charles Bronson comes in with the harmonica. And then after that scene, the first time you really hear the soundtrack come in is when Henry Fonda kills the whole family, which it just builds up to so well. I mean, it's just like, it feels so familiar, like some Western that you've seen before. Yeah. And but then the cinematography and the music just take it to this like this unattainable level, like that another filmmaker could just like never hope to achieve. You know what I mean? Because it just, I don't know how to describe it other than that. It's just like, I'm just blown away by the music and the cinematography. But then, Henry Fonda comes in, and you realize that it's him that's killed this whole family. And
I was shook.
Yeah. I mean, that was what was supposed to happen. That's what Leone wanted, because Henry Fonda showed up. Well, Henry Fonda didn't want to do the movie at first, and then Sergio Leone met up with him, and he was like, he basically described that opening scene. He was like, imagine like this horrible thing happens, and then this cowboy walks in, you just see his feet, and the camera moves up, and it's Henry fucking Fonda. Yeah. And audiences are going to be shocked, because like they're not used to seeing him be a murderous villain, you know? And then he agreed to do it. And then he showed up on set with like a beard and like brown contact lenses to try to look more evil. Yeah. And Leone was like, no. Like, you got to look like you. Like Henry, like, like,
that's awesome.
You know? So yeah, it's like that's exactly what he wanted. And then, I mean, it's just like, that first 40 minutes is like scene after scene is so good. Like the next scene when Joe McBain comes in on the train, and then like that really beautiful piece of music. Yeah. I think it first starts coming in when she like looks at her clock and she realizes like they're not there, and that her clock's not wrong. And then the music starts to come in, and then she goes into the train station, and then the camera moves up and you see the whole town. Yeah. Like, and then you get the shots of the West, you know, when she's riding in the buggy, you know, to go out to the property and stuff, like the shots of the West with that music. I mean, it's just like drinking a fine wine, dude. It's like you've never seen, like, you're never going to see anything more beautiful.
That's how I felt about Jill McBain.
Yeah, she is beautiful. Like,
yeah, insane.
I mean, yeah, and then sorry, I'm just like, as I'm like
That's
talking
okay.
about
No,
this,
that's cool.
I'm like remembering like all these incredible shots, like when she gets to the house, and then she's digging through stuff or whatever, trying to find, like, you find out later she's like trying to find like if he had any gold or whatever.
Yeah.
But then she lays down on the bed, and the camera goes like above the canopy.
Yeah.
And so you like see through the canopy and see her on the bed. Like, that shot was just awesome. Like,
yeah.
literally,
and it's just, I mean, it's just so unusual as well. Like, you wouldn't expect that is where we're going to go, you know, because it's distorting the view. We're moving up, you know, it's kind of away from what we would normally see as a person.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a lot in there.
Yeah, there's so many things like that just blow me away, and is like I said, it's like some of the most beautiful filmmaking I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But then it's mixed with just like confusion.
Yeah.
You know, where I'm like not following it totally, and then I'm not really rooting for anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, Jill McBain seems like a good character in the beginning, but then she like is not so great as the movie goes on, as far as like her character go. I guess just the character, not her as an actress, but
but the character. Yeah. I think, I mean, Jill McBain worked for me, and I think that's partly down to Cardinale and how she played the character. I think that to play a prostitute that is, you know, looking for money and looking for a fortune, and kind of does, you know, loses her husband in the opening 30 minutes and goes on to sleep with half the other cast. You know, it's hard to really root for that character.
Yeah.
But I think that she plays it in such a way that, you know, there's a lot of similarities I saw between her character and the West in general, right?
Yeah.
Like, this train is moving forward, and it literally can't because there's this farm. Like, it's stuck. Like, it needs to get this farm out of the way, really, so that it can keep moving forward and the guy can keep making money. For her, she's trying to outrun her past. She moves out to the West, which is, as we know from the bar scene, completely different to New Orleans. You know, like the bartender's like, oh, there's too many people. Like, it's too, you know, modern for me. And then instantly everyone finds out about her past because time has moved on and like technology is caught up, you know. And by the end of the film, she's kind of accepted that that's her way in life, you know, and she's a different character because of it. She's accepted the past. She's not trying to outrun it. And she's like building something new.
Yeah.
And I thought that Cardinale just did it so well.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of played the character with such, I don't know, she felt real to me, you know, like a real person.
Yeah.
And yeah, I loved her performance. I didn't necessarily like Jason Robards as Cheyenne.
Yeah.
I thought that his character, you know, apart from a few instances that really could have been done by the harmonica, you know, Charles Bronson character, he didn't really have a lot to do.
Yeah.
Apart from like just be there so characters could talk to him.
Yeah.
About themselves, so we could learn more about them and kind of, you know, he was just a talking post basically most of the time.
Yeah.
What did you think?
I mean, in terms of the character, or just of
I mean, I think that his performance was good.
Yeah.
I think that like the character was alive, and like Jason Robards did a really good job of it. But I just don't think that, you know, when we've come off the back of Tuco, Lee Van Cleef's character, you know, these supporting characters that, you know, we've said it, like, they steal the show. You know, it's not Clint's films after the first one. The supporting characters are the ones. So to find a supporting character that is so bland and so boring and not like, there's nothing about him, you know.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think I agree. I think he could have. I think maybe rewatching it, maybe I'll care more.
Yeah.
I mean, this was a rewatch, but it's been a long time, so I couldn't remember most of it other than the music. But like I didn't remember that like the whole scene with the where he's a kid and he's holding his brother up on his
Oh yeah.
shoulders
Yeah.
and stuff. It's like that gives the character like that's the thing that you need to like care about the character, but it doesn't come in until the end of the movie, so you don't really have any kind of motivation to root for him. You don't know if he's really a good guy or a bad guy or what his motivation is exactly. But I did have this thought in like the scene where it's Charles Bronson and the Cheyenne character, Jason Robards, and they kind of have their, I don't know if you want to call it confrontation or whatever, where he's there's a lot of tension. Basically, he's playing the harmonica, he's got the gun down in front of him, and then Jason Robards comes in and he like sticks his finger in the gun and he pulls it down the bar and he spins it around and he like tosses it back to him and he like tells him to pick it up. Like I love the blocking. Like I love that, like the way that scene was executed and everything. But what I felt like I wanted was like to care about the characters. I think if we cared about the characters, it would have just taken that scene. It would have just dialed that tension up to where it really meant. Because at that point, you're like, either one of these characters could die, and it'll probably still go to another interesting place. You don't really care who lives or dies. You know what I mean? So I think that's part of the problem with the movie is that you don't care who lives or dies throughout the movie. But I don't think that was necessarily the point either. But it seems like as far as like we talked about Tarantino a lot. Or I have, I guess, just because my way into Leone was was Tarantino talking about Leone all the time.
Yeah.
And how much he's influenced him. And it seems like what Tarantino has taken from him is some of that blocking, like that way to like build the tension in the scene just with like what characters do and how they say them. But then like Tarantino, before you get to that scene where he dials the tension up like that, he has some scenes where you're hanging out with the character and you get to learn a little bit about the character, even if it's not their past. You just hang out with them for a while, get to know them enough to where you like them.
Yeah.
And then he puts them in those tension situations, and then you're like really on your seat, right?
Yeah.
So I think I wanted that a little bit, but yeah, I mean, it's like a movie, but that's what the movie is. It's not that. Like, the movie is something else. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's not always a bad thing. Like, just because, I mean, we're kind of picking it apart, being like, how could this be better? But it's not necessarily, doesn't necessarily need to be. It's like, it is the movie that it is. It's its own piece of art.
Exactly. And I think that was the main thing. I think if I had seen this on its own without watching 4 films before, especially Leone films, I would have been like, this is incredible. This film is so insanely good. But then, having watched the other $3 trilogy, knowing that he didn't really want to make Westerns anymore, I could tell. I could tell that this, like, his Western...
I mean, it's not like he lazily made this movie.
no, exactly.
I mean, it was masterfully done.
Yeah.
But you can see what he did.
Yeah, his direction is so much better. But you can tell that, like, it's not... The other films I felt were more about the characters and the story. This is more about him as a director showing what he can do with a camera.
Yeah.
The story is inconsequential.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter in terms of what the characters do. Like you said, if they live, if they die, doesn't matter. What matters is that Leone has directed this to within an inch of its life in a good way. It is beautiful. Every shot looks like it can be framed. There's just a million close-ups of Charles Bronson's face. just super tight, him not giving anything away. There is so much good stuff in this, but story-wise, we've seen it before.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that was the point. I think he he wasn't making necessarily a personal film. He was trying to like take and successfully, not just trying, but like he took the genre of the Western and turned it on its head, but then also gave you all of the tropes that work in that genre, like all the delivering the goods of the genre, but also giving you something very poetic, not necessarily different, but definitely like poetic. Like this movie, I would say is like a poem on film.
Yeah, exactly. And I think
but not like a poem, that's like, roses are red, violets are blue. It's like an Edgar Allan Poe poem, and it's like dark and like not exactly the way that you want to see life. Yeah.
I think that like you said, the opening 40 minutes, those two scenes at the beginning are the best that we've seen so far from Leone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would take both of those, and then you could have ended the film and I would have been like, I'm happy. They were incredible. Those two things that I saw were so good. It's just that tension that he built. I mean, because then when we get to the fight at the end, I don't really feel like there's as much tension. It's kind of
not as much as like the good, the bad, and the ugly. Yeah,
we get the reason why, and then guns are out, bang. It's over. So it was interesting, that change, because we'd already seen it in the two previous films.
Yeah,
we'd seen that tension build in the last kind of standoff, but this one it wasn't like that.
Yeah,
which was interesting. I mean, Henry Fonda's character, just to kind of go back a little bit, he was called Frank, right?
Uh-huh.
And it made me sit up because there's a Fritz Lang film called The Return of Frank James, where Henry Fonda plays a character called Frank James.
Oh.
And it's a Western. And he's the brother of Jesse James. And he's taken revenge on the people that killed his brother.
Interesting. Huh.
And I mean, it's not, highly thought of. It's not, a classic, quote unquote. It's a good film. I mean, I love Lang is one of my favorite directors. And I've seen it, and it's fine. It's pretty good, But as soon as I heard them calling Frank, I was like, I don't know if that can, is that too inconsequential, especially with how much they are paying homage to previous Westerns.
What year was that?
That year was, it was 1940.
Oh, okay.
So, and I can't help but think, especially a European would have been aware of Lang, especially with someone who's so in love with cinema. Whether the American films might have, but I don't know. Leone is a massive fan of American Westerns,
I couldn't tell you exactly which names or whatever, but they did take, I think, what's his name? Brett McBain.
Yeah, okay.
There was two different crime novel authors. They took Brett from one of them and McBain for the other one.
Nice.
So they did do that. In this movie, they were the names were based off of they were making very obscure references. So it is possible.
Yeah, I mean, the Jill McBain character just reminded me of Dallas from Stagecoach, the prostitute character that's not explicitly said because it's early Hollywood and there's problems on that. But yeah, I think, like you said, there's a lot of nods to the American Western here, and a lot of the stuff that they were kind of trying to incorporate in.
Yeah.
But again, it was, I don't know whether it's just because we've been watching them in order, but I felt like it was more of a reference to himself than it was to the Western,
Yeah.
There might have been.
I think that's probably just because you just watched all of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you probably haven't watched as many Westerns. That's just a guess. I don't know. but
I mean, I've watched a few.
You've probably watched a lot. Yeah. But I did find, so this kind of gives some context on the movie a little bit, but this is out of the book. So for those listening, this is from Something to Do with Death, which is the title of Sergio Leone's biography written by Christopher Frayling. This is in the chapter on Once Upon a Time in the West. It says, but the movies were just the catalyst for a more wide-ranging debate. As Leone explained, for this Dance of Death, I wanted to take all the most stereotypical characters from the American Western on loan. The finest whore from New Orleans, the romantic bandit, the killer who is half businessman, half killer, who wants to get on in the new world of business, the businessman who fancies himself as a gunfighter, the lone avenger. With these 5 most stereotypical characters from the American Western, I wanted to present a homage to the Western at the same time as showing the mutations which American society was undergoing at the time. So the story was about birth and death. Before they even come on to the scene, these stereotypical characters know themselves to be dying in every sense, physically and morally. Victims of a new era was advancing. Leone's ultimate goal was nothing less than a cinematic fresco on the birth of America.
Yeah, I mean, that whole like life and death thing is pretty front and center. You know, the whole it's the end of the West, and I think it's very telling that the Charles Bronson character at the end decides to go the opposite way to the railway. He's going back into the West.
Yeah.
Because that's where it belongs. Whereas Jill and all these other characters that are kind of building the railroad and the station and stuff, they're progressing with it.
Yeah.
They're moving on to this new America. And all these characters are, at this point, you know, shadows of the past. You know, and even the title, Once Upon a Time in the West, Once Upon a Time is like a fairy tale. It's about a time that, you know, a long time ago. You know, it's not modern day, and it might not even have been true. You know, these characters are exaggerated versions of probably what is true, and they didn't, you know, they can't exist outside of this film. You know, they're not made for the next chapter in American history.
Yeah, and I think the thing that is like so, you know, that makes the film borderline on like, I like it, I don't like it. Is that that the story is about America.
Yeah.
And that it's not like the people, the characters in America are not like the heroes that you would want them to be. They're, you know, we're born out of terrible people. You know, and it's like it's not a glamorous look on the past, which is probably a lot more true than anything else, you know, is that, you know, we're descendants of some pretty horrific people. So, you know, I mean, it's beautiful in that way that it's like true in some ways. Like, even though it is like a fairy tale, it's like probably more accurate than like all those other Westerns that you've seen with John Wayne. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think that we talked last time about the Civil War and kind of it not really making that much sense to me. Not in terms of like, you know, what's happening, but more like I haven't really been educated on it. It's hard to kind of grasp a feeling when it's just kind of portrayed like that, I guess. I don't know. Whereas with this, the progression of time was a message that I like I said, I really got it. And I liked the message it was getting across. Like, it wasn't, you know, no characters at any point were like, I don't know what we're going to do. Like, we're not going to be a Western town anymore. wink, wink, nudge, nudge. You know, it was kind of, it's all very under the surface. But, you know, we live through the technology advancement and the boom, you know, if anything, we've seen progression like no other, you know, and it's, you know, you can relate to the Western side, like this train coming through is their mobile phone, is their like,
yeah, exactly.
Like things are never going to be the same again now.
Yeah.
And that part, like I said, the characters didn't do it for me, apart from Jill McBain. I really enjoyed her. And, you know, her kind of characterization. But that theme was the thing that I was like, this is why I'm carrying on watching this film, because I really enjoyed that kind of, these are relics now.
Yeah.
You know, we think from the John Wayne films that he's so cool. Not one of these characters was like fist pump cool. Do you know what I mean? It was
exactly. I mean, even the Charles Bronson character, who is kind of supposed to be that, he didn't have the. He just seemed more like a bad guy, and I think that was the point. It was like he's supposed to be the good guy, but we're gonna like make him so mysterious that he feels like a bad guy.
Yeah,
you know. I think that's the point. I think we're supposed to feel a little bit disoriented because like you go into a film, even, I mean, it's the same formula every film you go in, right? It's like you go in, you know who the hero is, you're gonna root for him, you know who the bad guy is, and all the westerns did it, you know, and more than that does it. And I think Leone wanted you to not be able to do that. I think Leone just wanted you to go into this movie thinking, okay, I'm going to watch a classic Western. Where's my hero?
Yeah.
And you never get to find him.
Yeah.
Like, you don't get to have that connection. Like, it's probably experimental in a lot of ways because he probably didn't know exactly how audiences would react to it. But he was going to do it anyway because he was, you know, he didn't really want to make this movie. He just wanted to work with Henry Fonda and he wanted to make his money. And, you know, he was like, Henry Fonda is the main character and he's the bad guy.
Yeah.
So he's more focused on that.
Yeah, it's awesome. So, I mean, like I said, the one character that I really did like was Jill McBain. I mean, what did you make of her? I mean, first of all, before I ask that question, this is the first strong female character that we have had.
Yeah.
In any of these films, right? The last female character of any substance was in Colossus of Rhodes.
Yeah.
And since then, it's been, you know, damsels in distress. Nobody has had any lines. You know, this is as soon as she came on screen, I was like, finally, we've got a female character that has actually got dialogue and can like take care of herself. To an extent. So what did you make of her? Like, did you think that she really loved Brett McBain? Or did you think that she was just in it for the money? Because
no, I felt like she loved him.
Yeah.
Like I really felt that. I really felt like when she like she has the scene with, is it with Henry Fonda or is it with the Cheyenne character? When she says something about, I can't remember the exact dialogue, but she says something about like, sure, I'll go live with this guy and make a bunch of babies.
Yeah.
Or something like that. You know, which like just saying the line doesn't sound like you love the guy or whatever, but the way she performed it, it was like you really felt like she loved him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you really felt like it wasn't just for money or whatever. It was because she like that this guy probably, you know, showed her love.
Yeah.
Like some kind of love that she hadn't seen before, or at least in a long time.
I guess
like maybe like the kind of love she only saw from her parents or something like that. And that, you know, she just like, it was an escape from not really towards money, but just away from
what she was doing.
prostitution. Yeah.
Because she wasn't really aware of the money right until somebody said, oh, he must have had a lot of money, like to build his house, and like he said he was sitting on a fortune or something like that.
Yeah.
Which she took literally, but in fact is the fact that the train is going to pass through there because it's the only area around that's got water. He knew that if he had already bought the land, built the station, people were going to come. He was going to get loads of money.
Yeah.
Ingenious, really. I mean,
Yeah.
you can tell. Like as soon as he got killed, and it turned out that it was about the railroad, I was like, "That's good." That's a good plot point. I like that.
Yeah.
I
mean, and those characters at the beginning in that scene too is like,
yeah,
there's like I've really felt a connection with those characters, and they just get killed right away.
I was going to say you get more of a character arc from them that are on screen for 15 minutes than you do with Harmonica, Cheyenne, any of those other leading quote unquote men. So apart from Henry Fonda, you get a bit more of a, trying to be the big shot.
Yeah. But yeah, the Jill McBain character, like, I don't know. She's such a tragic character.
Yeah.
I think I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think I mean, I liked the actress. Like, she did a really good job, but like, I don't feel like really a connection with any of these characters. Like,
see,
I wanted her to kill some people.
Yeah.
I wanted her to take that shotgun that was on the wall and just like, because she's like, hears someone outside, and then she picks up the gun and then she puts it back, and then she opens the door and she's like, oh, there's someone there.
Yeah.
I'm like, why didn't you have the gun in your hand?
Yeah.
Like, I think I don't know. Maybe that's just like the action movie fan in me that's just like, just open the door and blow them all away. But yeah, I don't know, man. Like, there's parts of her character that just, I don't know, that I'm not sure about.
Yeah, I'd go back to this film mainly for her character. I think if I was to rewatch this, it was because I would want to see her character again. I don't think there's much for anybody else. I mean, but then again, it is a male-dominated world. She's this person that's kind of, she's using what she's got to survive, regardless, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that's part of that thing I was talking about of just not wanting to accept the world that we came from, or just being so uneasy.
Yeah.
Or, it's, I mean, I'm a man, so it's like I have the privilege of really not having to worry about like getting raped or, being in a room alone with a man and stuff. And it's like, this kind of movie puts it right in front of your face, where it's like, oh, the world a woman lives in is literally a completely different world.
Yeah.
I mean, I would hope that the world is better now than it was then, but like for the majority of humanity, like it's been like that.
Yeah.
So it might just be more of like, the tragedy of the character that makes it hard for me to,
I know what you mean,
be like, I want to see that again.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
Yeah, I just want to see her kill all these dudes. You got ghosts in your house?
Yeah, what was that? I don't know. Maybe Dietrich. I don't know. I'll go and check it out later.
Somebody's out there stealing your Criterion collection.
I can see it from where I'm sitting, so they better not. Oh my gosh. The other day, this isn't important. Forget it. We're on a podcast.
The listeners might want to know what What happened the other day?
It's not very interesting. So me and Amelia were on the couch. I heard a bang from behind me. I was like, what is that? Oh, well, never mind. And a bottle of beer fell out in my fridge and like smashed all over the floor.
Oh, jeez.
In the fridge. So it like seeped down and we had to throw all like the fresh fruit and veg and stuff away.
Yeah. It was Doctor Strange. He was astral projecting.
Yeah. Oh, God. But, yeah.
But yeah, man, I mean, like, in some ways, I kind of wish that I had picked this movie for us to watch without you watching any Leone movies.
Yeah.
Because to me, this movie is
the most Leone.
Well, the most Leone, but it's also just like like I said, one of the most beautiful films I've ever seen.
Yeah.
In terms of just like filmmaking and the look of everything.
Yeah.
Like everyone in the movie.
And I know I sounded a lot harsher on it than I am.
And I probably did too. Yeah. I mean, but that's the point. We're trying to dig into our souls here and figure out what it is that we're connecting with.
I mean, I know for me, I need a character that I can hold on to.
Yeah.
And I felt that I had it in the last few films. I had Tuco. I had the Lee Van Cleef character.
Van Cleef.
Yeah, I forget his name. But and it's not a bad film. I mean, like you said, like I got swept in it, and I could any shot of this film I could frame.
Yeah,
and it would just be beautiful. So, yeah. I mean, do you want to try and guess what we rated it?
Yeah. I'm gonna probably be wrong. I'm gonna say you rated it 3.5.
Okay, I rated it 4.
Oh wow.
Yeah, like I said, I sounded a lot more.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
yeah.
A lot less happy on it. It's the look of it. It's just so beautiful. It's that opening sequence is some of the best. It's maybe the best Western sequence I've ever seen, and some of the best film sequences I've ever seen. Like it's just so great. I mean,
sweet.
Yeah, and I'm gonna guess you've seen it before, right? I mean, I'm gonna guess 4.5.
It's a 5.
Wow.
Out of 5 for me. You seem so surprised. But yeah, I mean, it's like, I feel like I have kind of a love-hate relationship with this movie, but like that's not exactly the right thing to say because it's not like hate is a strong word. There's like nothing really about this movie that I hate.
Yeah.
It's a little bit slow and a lot of it, I don't connect with all the characters or any of them really, but there's something about the filmmaking, something about the music and the imagery. I mean, and the actors as well. I mean, it's like the look of the actors, like some kind of nostalgia for the Western there.
Yeah.
As a film, that it's just like it's a beautiful film to me. Like I don't know how else to explain it, but like I mean, definitely the imagery and the music, I think for me is the best I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like hands down. I don't know that there's really anything that is better in terms of that for me, and because of that it's like it's 5.
Yeah.
Like the movie is incredible.
That's great, dude. I'm so glad. Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about this, but like Ennio Morricone again recorded the score before they shot the movie, and then they played the score. They blasted the score while they were shooting the movie.
That's so insane to me.
Yeah.
Just that kind of, I don't know. It's, like you said, it's just that marrying together of the two.
Yeah.
That works so well. I don't know how you can write a score without the movie at all. Like,
Yeah.
I know that he kind of goes back and edits it. It's not like the final thing, but
Yeah. Well, I think with this one it was. Like with Good,
Well.
Bad, the Ugly, he refined it a little more afterwards. But with this one, I think the final score, that was it.
yeah,
You know. But I mean, he's a composer. You know, that's what he does.
Yeah.
I mean, filmmakers have to make movies without the music. Usually, you know, and you know, this is the exception. But yeah, I'm sure it makes it a lot easier for the filmmaking part of it.
hmm
But yeah, also the film was put into the Library of Congress
yeah.
in 2009 for being historically significant.
I mean, it's you can see influences everywhere. You know, I
Yeah.
know that every director that we like has kind of touted this as one of the influential films, and it's pretty obvious as to why. I mean, where are we going to rate it? This is the thing for me, because you know, so if this is the first episode you've been listening, me and Brandon, as we've been going along, have been ranking the Sergio Leone films, and so far it's been chronological. So the bottom of the list is Colossus of Rhodes. We both enjoyed that film a lot, but it's you know, it's not an auteur yet. We talked about this. It's a filmmaker that's just kind of dialing it in on his first job. And then 3 is Fistful of Dollars, 2 is For a Few Dollars More, which we both enjoyed a lot. And then number 1 is The Good and the Bad and the Ugly, based on the fact that it is such a classic and there's so much good filmmaking in that film.
Yeah.
Which brings us to this. Once Upon a Time in the West. I mean, where's it going to go?
This is hard.
Yeah.
I don't know where to put it.
I think to look at, this is the best that we've seen. And I think some of the sequences in this is the best that we've seen. Overall, though, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, I feel, is better.
Yeah.
And just because the characters are easier to kind of relate to, the story is a little bit, you know, we talked about the complex, like how it feels complex, but it's not. Whereas this feels kind of convoluted. You know, there's a lot going on. Characters seem to disappear and go to one place and then come back, and it's been like a year.
Yeah.
You know, just it's not been a year, but you know.
Is this okay? So this is kind of like us saying, like, you know, whatever's going to be number 1 on this list is the greatest Leone film
Yes.
of all time.
Yes.
Okay. Then, yeah, I would say man, this is hard
Yeah.
because I do really like For a Few Dollars More, but I think this would go above it. And then we would put The Good and the Bad and the Ugly at the top.
I think so too. Yeah, I think that if I was talking to me before we started this and I wasn't doing a podcast, I'd be like, watch The Good, Bad, and the Ugly first, and then watch Once Upon a Time in the West.
Yeah.
And then finish the Dollars trilogy, you know.
That's basically what I did.
Yeah, I mean,
when I first got into Leone.
This is a good way to do it, I think. But I mean, The Good and the Bad and the Ugly, it's, you know, it's good. It's really good.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
you know, I think it's going to take a lot to knock it off. Maybe something that's not a Western.
So, what are we watching next week?
Well, it's not going to be a surprise to anyone that's been listening along, but we are going to carry on the Leone love, and we're going to go to the next film, which is my favorite title of his, Duck You Sucker, also released as A Fistful of Dynamite from 1971, and it is another Western.
Yeah.
Kinda. So I'm super interested. I mean, I was trying not to like look ahead before we recorded, but
yeah,
like what pulled him into doing another Western?
Right? Yeah, I'm really curious to find out.
Yeah,
because to do it again.
Yeah, exactly.
Like he was done after A Fistful of Dollars.
Yeah, and I read that like on this film he was already kind of preparing Once Upon a Time in America.
Okay, yeah.
Like,
he would
Yeah.
when he was working on Once Upon a Time in the West, he had already read a book. I think it's a book called The Hoods that he based the movie on. He was already wanting to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to find out exactly why he goes back to this Western genre again. You know,
It's
what
probably
it
money.
is. I would assume so too. You know, yeah. The studio, you know,
Such
but
a like you know, besides all the great things about Leone, I think like one of the greatest probably titlers of a film.
yeah, yeah. These films are great. Yeah,
Like the way that I mean, well, I don't know what I'm saying. The title of his films are some of the best titles of any films.
yeah,
Yeah.
without a doubt. Yeah, it's a fun time.
Sweet.
Well, I think that brings us to the end of the show. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Film Church Radio, and you can follow us individually on Letterboxd. Brandon is at Selman Scope, and I am at Walker Lewis 3007. To keep up with what we've been watching live, you don't have to wait every week to hear what we've been watching. You can just check in every day, which would be a bit weird.
Right.
You can also check out my Marvel ranking list on there if you are so inclined. I know I told a friend of Chelsea's once what my top 10 was, and she was aghast. So, spoiler alert, I've got an affinity for the Ant-Man films. We also have all of our back episodes streaming on all good podcast platforms. So if you want to go back and listen to the Leone series or listen to us talk about Spider-Man No Way Home, Pink Flamingos, Sherlock Jr., any of that good stuff, they're all there and free of charge. The only payment we ask is a 5-star review. Seems pretty fair, right, Brandon?
It does.
There's what, like over a day's worth of content now. So
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. Crazy. So yeah, leave us a rating and review. And just, you know, if you leave us a rating, just tell us what film we've reviewed is your favorite, what film you want us to watch. That'd be pretty cool. But other than that, Brandon, did you hear the news?
What news?
The reward for this man is $5,000.
Wow. Judas was content with 4,970 less.
There was no dollars in them days.
But sons of bitches. Yeah.
Nice. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll be back next week with Duck You Sucker. But until then, have a great week. Amen.
You threw me off.
I'm sorry.
Said amen so early.
I know.
It's okay. I was like, amen. All right, y'all. Have a good night.
Amen.
Amen. All right, bye.